In the world of comedy, the saying goes, satire is something that closes on Saturday night. But as we first said last April, that hasn't proven true for Jon Stewart, who's found success in poking fun at politics, media, and even in recent months, the excesses of national security. His satirical coverage of the 2000 election earned him a prestigious Peabody Award. Since then, he and his staff have also picked up an Emmy Award for their writing. Stewart's Daily Show on Comedy Central Cable is not coincidentally in direct competition with the 11 o'clock news in most of the country, and its sharp, edgy humor is stealing an audience.
From Comedy Central's World News headquarters in New York, the most important television program ever.
It is television news's evil, demented twin, so full of itself it almost looks real. At a time when more and more news broadcasts are produced as entertainment, Jon Stewart anchors an entertainment show disguised as news.
Bill Clinton's new Manhattan office to cost taxpayers millions. It's one more reason why I am not a taxpayer.
With a nod and a wink, Stewart and his team of reporters deconstruct the day's events and personalities and have a go at all of the conventions of television news itself, like Sweeps Week hype.
You can't see it, you can't touch it, but it affects millions of American children. It's gravity, and it's reached epidemic proportions.
I think why this works is there's a real frustration out there with the aggregate assaultive effect of television news. If you were to watch television news, you would think we are in not only a deep economic depression, but a rampant crime wave. And not only that, that your children are not safe from bacteria that may or may not be growing in your bathroom.
You don't have to go too far to satirize it.
No. Finally, it was time to hear from the man himself.
Social Security has been called the third rail of American politics, the one you're not supposed to touch because it might shock you. But if you don't touch it, you cannot fix it. And I intend to fix it.
Does that mean you're going to touch it?
Jon Stewart is smart, which is one of the first things you notice about him.
I would have tidied up, but hey, this is...
The second is that his bare brick office looks like a senior dorm room on Sunday morning.
You guys want a gumball?
But as the co-executive producer and managing editor, he oversees almost as many correspondents, producers, and writers as many real news broadcasts.
This is your cigarette substitute?
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you have like a news desk here that reads the wires every minute? And
we're completely fake. We go by, if somebody's got CNN on in their office and they go, guys, get in here, you're not going to believe this.
But you do watch CNN.
Oh, yeah. We keep our TV probably tuned to mostly CNN. And, you know, if we want fair reporting, then Fox. You know, they report and we decide. I don't know if you knew that. We're really good that way. You check facts. We would never think to do that. To check actual facts. That's just not something that would ever occur to us.
What doesn't matter?
Exactly. We have no credibility issue because we have absolutely no credibility.
So it's no problem to cover the Clinton pardon investigation by standing in a far corner of the studio with a picture of the Capitol electronically imposed behind them.
This is a bombshell. Some here in Washington believe the presidential pardon of Mr. Rich was granted in part because of all the money donated to the Clintons by Mrs. Rich.
Steve, that happens all the time in Washington. That's how it runs.
It does? Well, why doesn't anybody do anything about it?
It was last summer when they were dispatched to the political conventions that Stewart and his crew moved from cult pleasure to cable hit. The Daily Show and a political convention seemed to be made for each other.
We're a fake news organization covering a fake news event. Did you go to the conventions?
No.
Rightfully so. Because it's their promotional ad for the party. We, as a fake news organization, should have been the only ones there. But there were like 15,000 of you guys just walking around. Ah, you believe these guys? It's a whole big song and dance. Well, then leave. We think it's goofy. We're staying.
A big catch. Senator Lieberman. I'm sorry. I thought you were somebody else. Have you had a chance to go to Disney World?
Actually, I didn't make it on this trip.
Did you have a chance to go to Universal Studios?
No, I missed those fundraisers.
Have you had a chance to lie to Congress?
How are Democrats going to improve our public school system in the United States?
With busier families, more single-parent families, the great need is to revolutionize public schools so they help families with their most important responsibility, which is raising their children.
No, seriously.
That's why we're for preschool, after school. That's why we're for more computers in
There's Barbara
schools.
Streisand. I gotta go.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Senator Lieberman.
Yes.
By the end of the second convention, not only did everyone know who they were playing along.
Well, why'd you come to the convention? I mean, I come for two reasons. I come for the food, I come to wear makeup.
William Bennett asked me for my autograph for his kid. You've seen the show. If you were William Bennett, would you even talk to me?
Ladies and gentlemen, The Daily Show.
Stewart's correspondents are all experienced comedy veterans. Vance DeGeneres wrote TV sitcoms. Stephen Colbert started with Second City TV. Mo Rocca once wrote news for a PBS children's show. And Stephen Carell and Nancy Walls, who are married to each other, have both worked on Saturday Night Live.
The correspondents on the show are very good.
Unbelievable. I mean, the one thing that I realized early on is if this show's funny, through and through, I win. Whether I have anything to do with it or not, I'll win. Yeah, I don't have too much with the rich thing.
At The Daily Show, Stewart polishes jokes with his boss, Madeline Smithberg, who created the show, and with the staff of writers.
Hey, what's up?
And he is in and out of editing rooms.
But there's a new sheriff in town, and he aims to change all that.
He screens every piece,
I would only use just a touch of him.
critiquing and doctoring the script.
We were in the editing room and we were watching one of your reporters walk down the street, and there was something really wonderful about the way, about his walk, about his smirk, about the furrowed brow.
They go to the same school you guys have gone to. It's that sort of that manufactured emotion that comes from having to go from a tragic ocean disaster where 90 people were lost to, and we'll meet a dog and you won't believe how much he loves ice cream.
Jon Stewart was born Jonathan Stewart Leibowitz 38 years ago and raised near Trenton, New Jersey, before going off to William and Mary. He started out studying chemistry, but after 2 years switched to psychology.
But apparently there's a right and wrong answer in chemistry, whereas in psychology, you can say whatever you want as long as you write 5 pages.
He took that psychology degree and became a bartender, then chucked it all to set out for New York City, hoping to make it on the comedy club circuit. Instead, he found himself waiting tables while waiting for a break.
Why did you change your name?
Leibowitz sounded too Hollywood.
Did you think of quitting?
Quitting? I wasn't even in it. I don't think you can quit something before you're
Stopping.
in it.
I mean, you just say,
I
I'm never
thought
going
of
to do this
stopping
again.
every day for 4 years, the first 4 years.
What was your big break?
I don't know that there. I mean, I don't know that there is such a thing.
Are you still working in a restaurant? I mean, you got a break.
It's funny you mention that. Bennigan's. The big break for me was deciding this was my life. Was deciding that no matter what, hell or high water, no turning back. I'm going to do this and get as good at it as I can get. We're thrilled to have you here.
And what Stewart's best at is a brand of political satire that's made him a household name to Americans under 30, many of whom, believe it or not, get most of their news from late-night comedians, a fact politicians have been quick to recognize.
And being on here has given me new status with my children.
During the New Hampshire primary, Senator John McCain let correspondent Steve Carell ride aboard the Straight Talk Express.
So Carell goes on the McCain Express, and he's giving him, favorite movie, favorite dish, favorite color.
Your favorite book?
For Whom the Bell Tolls.
How do you reconcile the fact that you were one of the most vocal critics of pork barrel politics, and yet, while you were chairman of the Commerce Committee, that committee set a record for unauthorized appropriations? I'm just kidding. No, I don't even know what that means.
You have all sorts of journalists that come on your program. You have all sorts of politicians who come on your program.
Right.
They watch it. They know what it is. What do you make of it? I mean, it's almost like an acknowledgement that that their world is filled with...
Sure. Who loves more than to come on and go, "You're right, kid, we're full of hot air." Wink. You know, and then go back to running the world.
And all this popularity has made him a sought-after speaker on college campuses. At Northwestern, the Hillel Society paid him 5 figures for his take on Jewish culture.
I never understood why Jews and blacks don't get along. We've just expressed our sufferings differently as people. Blacks developed the blues. Jews complained, we just never thought of putting it to music. It's very simple.
Stewart seems to save his sharpest barbs for the news business itself, which he believes is becoming more and more a promotional tool for its corporate owners.
And here's the amazing coincidence.
And he took due notice when ABC's owner, Disney, invested in an internet company, and then its sock puppet spokesman serenaded Diane Sawyer on Good Morning America.
Diane, you're 3 times the lady, and I love you.
At that moment, Ms. Sawyer teared up. Not from the song, but from the shattered dream that was her legitimate journalism career. It's about the system. It's not about the people who populate it. Does that make sense?
But what is it about the system?
Is that like any system? It cannot be effective once it gets away from what its goal and heart should be, which is to present you with information to inform you and to help you. Once you become us, once you became a competitive industry in the same respects as entertainment, now you're borrowing from, you know, the way we used to sell the Sonny and Cher show in the 70s. You know, how can that not be a farce when you're talking about news? Am I going to be fired? Am I part of the CBS family? Do you know? Can I be fired for this?
Are you part of the CBS News family?
I don't know.
Actually, in the course of doing this story, we found out he almost is. Comedy Central is owned by a company called Comedy Partners, which is a joint venture between AOL Time Warner and Viacom, the same company that owns CBS.
It's one joint venture. See? We're all going to get fired by the same guy one day, and it's going to be like a freaky, it's like a crossbreed genetic between like Dolly the sheep and one of Murdoch's kids, and it'll just rule AOL, Time, Viacom, Warner synergy.
With the elections over and a new president in office, where is the next big story? The same place as the last one, New Hampshire, where they're already projecting the 2004 voting trends. After all, the next primary and punchline is only 3.5 years away. Regardless of who wins the upcoming election, one of the biggest winners thus far in the presidential campaign has been Jon Stewart. He seems to be everywhere. His daily show on Comedy Central has become must-see television for news junkies and politicians alike. Now he's kicked up some dust by going after the shouting matches that pass themselves off as cable news. In a boilerplate campaign of prefabricated speeches and talking points, Jon Stewart is never on message. And when things get too serious, he's America's favorite political commentator.
What's your favorite moment of the campaign so far?
Just every moment with Dick Cheney has been my favorite. Here's what I wonder about Dick Cheney, and the reason that maybe they keep him only in loyalty oath audiences is if he becomes angry, I do believe he turns into the Hulk. And so they try and keep people from questioning him because he'll just, was it that? The shirt rips and suddenly he has hair. So he's been my favorite because he just goes out there to a room full of supporters and says, you know, we're all going to die, right? You're going to die unless I'm in charge.
What about Gary?
Kerry is, I think if he focuses, I think if he really, really focuses, he can defeat Nixon and I think have our troops out of Nam by 74. He is what Kennedy has wrought. John Kennedy, not Ted Kennedy. Ted Kennedy has wrought a whole other thing that has to do with not wearing pants and running around Palm Beach. He's Kennedy if you squint. You know, if you're not really paying that close attention. Sort of profiles in courage, profiles in might have been courage, profiles, you know what I'm saying?
Are you an equal opportunity skewer?
We don't consider ourselves equal opportunity anythings because that's not, you know, that's the beauty of fake journalism. We don't have to, we travel in fake ethics.
4 nights a week, Jon Stewart presides over a comedy show that masquerades as journalism, deconstructing the day's events and the pretenses of television news by repackaging reality as a parade of the absurd.
Just get to it.
This is a global effort. We're facing a group of folks who have such hatred in their heart.
Group of folks? We're facing a group of folks? A group of folks is what you run into at the Olive Garden. With the salad and the breadsticks and the soup.
You know, George Bush thought he could play dress-up on an aircraft carrier. And he thought he could stand up there in front of a big sign that said, "Mission accomplished."
And as I stand here in my borrowed work jacket, in front of a sign that says, "The real deal," I say to you, there is no irony in these statements.
This summer, Stewart unleashed his team of crack reporters at the Democratic and Republican conventions. Stephen Colbert, Samantha Bee, Ed Helms, and Rob Corddry are all talented young comics and students of the tactics and postures of television news.
Can you top me up here?
Take this interview at the Republican convention in New York with a delegate from Montana.
We're going to have a little time during the next few days, and we plan to tour your beautiful city.
Have you had your picture taken with a black person yet?
Well, I don't think so, but I wouldn't mind doing it.
That's something you'd be willing to try?
Why, certainly.
There's plenty of them.
I know.
Do you have any of them in Montana?
We don't, you know? We don't have any. In fact, I guess our kids were pretty old before they saw one.
Then, from the podium of Madison Square Garden, there was Lynn Cheney's introduction of her husband, the vice president.
While most of the boys I knew saw the charm of driving back and forth time and again between the two A&W root beer stands in our small town, Dick did not. And when practically everybody in Casper, Wyoming started doing the twist, I can tell you Dick did not.
And when all those young men were forced to go to Vietnam,
Dick did not.
And while we're on the subject of candidate spouses, there was this, right after John Kerry's primary victory in Arizona.
Kerry did seem uncharacteristically demonstrative after his win. Here he is giving one of his volunteers a big hug. Thank you so much. Embracing fellow Senator Ted Kennedy. And of course, giving his wife, Teresa, an accidental running into.
With material like that, The Daily Show's ratings are up 22% over last year. They even scored a journalistic coup when Senator John Edwards chose The Daily Show to make a major announcement.
Well, I am on your show to announce that I am a candidate for President of the United States.
And I guess I should probably tell you now, we're a fake show. So I want you to know that this may not count.
I saw John Edwards declaring his candidacy on your show.
Yes. And by the way, very effective move. I thought.
For him?
Oh, wait, he's not the nominee. Oh, yeah, no, it was bad then. Yeah, that didn't work. He did it because he made a promise to us that he would, and he kept it. I mean, he doesn't understand this system at all. I personally had forgotten that he told me that because I'm so not listening to the guests when they're talking usually. I'm usually thinking about, you know,
Next question.
Love a cappuccino. But it was fun. It was fun for us. But we have a difficult time when we march up to that line of respectability.
Hey, you looked a little uncomfortable.
Well, I think access doesn't work for us. And by the way, it hasn't been working for the regular media either.
Stewart expects to vote for John Kerry, but says that's not an endorsement. Just about every significant political figure has come on the show hoping to reach its young audience. The one notable exception, President Bush.
Do you think he'll come on?
Hold on. No, I don't think he'll come on.
Why?
He's busy. run in the country.
But you'd like to have him on?
The president? Probably not. It'd be very uncomfortable.
All the Secret Service people around.
It's not even so much the drug dogs, because we're pretty good about hiding everything. What I would like to say to him, I feel like I wouldn't be able to, because he's the president. And the respect that I have for the office and for the person holding it, whoever it is, would be confining.
But there are few constraints when it comes to crafting the comedy sketches, and almost everything is fair game.
Do you do things on a rock?
On a rock? Yes, sure. We call it Mesopotamia.
How are you? Nice to see you.
It's the, I think, defining issue of the day.
Here in Najaf, the violence is just at a simmer, whereas here in Wazit and southern Al Anbar, it's more of a quiet rage, which over here, John, is simply rage that's run out of ammunition. All across Iraq, there's only sporadic violence because they're almost out of people.
Anything you feel like you can't do?
I can't sing. Never been able to sing. I can't do voices very well. Every impression I do sounds the same. Can't dunk. Man, would I give anything to dunk.
I was talking about material.
I try not to do the unfunny stuff. That's the stuff I try not to do, but if you've seen the show, you see, it gets in. Hello. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Stewart and his Daily Show staff have moved from fake news into fake history.
There you go, sir. Thank you very much.
America, the book, a citizen's guide to democracy in action. It's a twisted take on a high school civics book with lessons on things like the 5 interesting moments in Senate history and exercises like dressing the Supreme Court. That one got it banned from Walmart.
Did you write it all by yourself?
Here's the thing. I'm more of a delegator. I like to come in, have half a melon, sit down, go through the papers. They'll bring me the stuff, I'll edit. No, everybody worked unbelievably hard on it.
Do you get all the money, or do they get part of the money?
Yeah. Well, they don't, when you say the money, we work here on a barter system. So what they get are beads, which they can turn in for drinks. It's a lot like Club Med.
And there'll be lots of beads to go around. The book is currently #1 on the New York Times bestseller list.
Thank you.
And Stewart Stark continues to rise ever higher.
Oh, that one.
With 2 Emmy Awards this year.
Perfect. That's good.
Even the cover of Rolling Stone.
Certainly you've become a much bigger deal.
Oh, I'm 6'2". 6'2", 185. We're certainly getting more attention, that's for sure.
The Television Critics Association gave you its award for Best News and Information Program this year?
We'd always sworn we're taking 60 Minutes down. You, Frontline, all you guys, you're meat. I think in some respects they were punking you, as opposed to praising us.
Stewart did some punking himself after 60 Minutes Wednesday admitted it could not authenticate documents used in a report on President Bush's National Guard service.
CBS issued a statement defending its reporting, but vowing to, quote, make every effort to resolve the contradictions and answer the unanswered questions about the documents. Among those unanswered questions, why the didn't you check them before you broadcast it?
I can't believe that the National Guard memo scandal is the only scandal in 4 years that has gotten elevated to the status of having a gate attached to it. Rathergate. For God's sakes, we launched a war based on forged documents. That doesn't get a gate. How do you not get a gate out of that? Dick Cheney's old company does business with Iran in an offshore Cayman Islands group. No gate. Nothing.
Do not listen to this guy or this guy.
While Stewart makes his living doing fake news on Comedy Central, which is owned by the same company that owns CBS News, he has real opinions about real news, especially the 24-hour cable variety, which he thinks produces more heat than light.
It is what has become rewarded in political discourse is the extremity of viewpoint, because people like the conflict. Conflict, baby, it sells. Crossfire, hardball, shut up, you shut up.
So when Stewart was invited to appear on CNN's Crossfire earlier this month, he decided to withhold his humor, express those opinions, and provoke a little conflict of his own.
You have a responsibility to the public discourse, and you fail
need to get a job at a journalism
miserably.
school, I think.
You need to go to one. The thing that I want to say is, when you have people on for just knee-jerk, reactionary talk.
Wait, I thought you were going to be funny. Come on, be funny.
No, I'm not going to be your monkey.
Some saw it as a sign that Stewart may be taking himself too seriously. Others congratulated him for speaking his mind. In any event, when it comes to the media, no one can accuse him of playing favorites.
Fox has the phrase fair and balanced, and journalists wring their hands about that. How can they say those they say fair and balanced, but they're not? I watch it. It's not. It makes me so mad. Well, CNN says you can depend on CNN. Guess what? I watch CNN. No, you can't. I watch it all the time. So your slogan's just as misleading as theirs.
We don't have a slogan.
You actually do.
What is it?
May cause drowsiness.
At 47 years old, comedian John Oliver has won 21 Emmy Awards, 3 Peabodys, and was named one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people. He's earned the accolades for his unique brand of meticulously researched political humor. His Sunday night show, Last Week Tonight, is now in its 12th season on HBO, giving him a perch to unleash searing satirical takes on America, his adopted homeland. So how did a British-born, middle-class, grade school cut-up become one of this country's sharpest comedians? We traveled near and far to find out. This past summer, we returned with John Oliver to his comedic launching pad, Edinburgh, Scotland, where modern life is set against a medieval backdrop. So tell me about this place.
Well, as you can see, this is controlled mayhem.
Every August, the city hosts the world's largest performing arts festival, a month-long free-for-all known as the Fringe. Artists from 60 countries perform nearly 4,000 shows. No act is turned away.
Some of it will be great, some of it will be otherworldly bad. But the fact that the two can exist concurrently is kind of the point.
The Fringe is a magnet for comedians. As a 20-year-old studying English at Cambridge University, John Oliver felt the pull. He went and tried his hand at stand-up.
And I remember walking off stage thinking, oh boy, I want to do that again, right now.
Almost sounds like it's addictive.
Oh, it's absolutely addictive.
He came back year after year and headed to the Royal Mile, a picturesque cobblestone street that turns into a competitive marketplace for attention.
Sketch comedy from New York, baby!
Were you doing this?
I was absolutely doing this. When you're first coming up here, the only way to do it is to almost beg for people to come and see you.
It's John Oliver!
He doesn't have to beg people anymore. He was welcomed with open arms at this basement club where he cut his comedic teeth.
I want you to know that I've befouled this stage so many times before, there's no guarantee this will go well.
He told us he learns from his mistakes, and starting out, he made a lot of them.
It's the best place.
But nowhere worse than at this tiny 55-seat venue called Pleasance Below.
This room was, in many ways, my comedic Waterloo.
Did you fill all the seats?
All of this was empty, apart from those 4 seats. And I thought, fine, that's fine. I can do an hour to 4 people. And that was my intention going in.
But his plans went awry. About 10 minutes in, 2 people walked out, then a third, leaving one woman alone.
I saw her hand slowly move down to her bag. And I said to her, are you leaving? And she said, yeah, I think I'm going to. Got up, walked out, and it's just me and a sound technician in a room. And he said, do you want to keep going? And I said, no, I think we're done here. And also, when you say, do you want to keep going, do you mean this show or this career? Certainly, it feels like I've got some decisions to make.
He decided to stop going for the easy laughs.
When I started off, I just wanted to make people laugh. Then I wanted to make people laugh about things I cared about. And for me, that was politics in its broadest form.
Did it feel like a risk at the time?
It felt like a risk worth taking.
And it worked. On his weekly HBO show, taped in New York City, His unique take on politics and intrinsic problems is what sets him apart from just about every other comedian on TV.
Because it looks to me like you are striking out looking right now.
He delights in revealing the absurdity in the obscure. Always, we noticed, with a twinkle in his eye and a mischievous smile.
Our main story tonight is the threat of nuclear annihilation.
You tackle topics, hospice care, bail reform, organ donations. It's not your typical comedy fare.
No, I know those don't sound funny. It's because fundamentally they're not. But there are funny things about how entrenched some of those problems are. And sometimes I think comedy is the best, most illuminating way to talk about them.
John Oliver has been making people laugh since he was a kid in the suburbs of Birmingham, England. His dad was a school principal, his mom a music teacher. Young John excelled as the class clown. Later, as a young comedian, he couldn't get enough of The Daily Show. So in 2006, he sent a sample of his work and was called in to try out.
John,
this is the audition tape. On Oliver's first trip to New York, he riffed with Jon Stewart about the time Vice President Dick Cheney shot and injured a friend on a quail hunt.
I'm sure right now those birds are laughing maniacally at us in one of those little coveys of theirs.
I don't think birds can laugh, John.
Whatever it is that they do then. Warble, tweet, coo. They're cooing at us right now, John. Because
he was hired on the spot, and over the next 7 years showed his range.
Absolute pleasure to be here, John.
In 2013, Jon Stewart stepped away to direct a movie.
I hope all of you have a wonderful, safe summer. Please enjoy the show.
And tapped John Oliver to step in.
I don't care what they say, it's my show now, and I want it in pink.
Was that kind of like taking Daddy's car for a joyride?
Oh, yeah. That very first day, the Edward Snowden news broke, and it was really fun to sit behind the steering wheel and think, oh, how fast does this thing go? Oh, pretty quick, it turns out.
His turn at the desk caught the eye of HBO, which gave him carte blanche to create his own show. He asked Tim Carvell, head writer at The Daily Show, and comedy producer Liz Stanton to join him. They were given the 11 o'clock slot on Sunday nights. Did that seem like a gift, or like they were hiding you someplace?
No, I mean, we were on after Game of Thrones. It was more of a sense of, oh, we're going to let some people down.
Yeah.
But it's his takedowns that seem to delight him the most.
Because Thomas is now at the heart of the...
He pounced on news reports that Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas had not disclosed lavish gifts from rich friends and a generous deal on his prized motor coach.
Look at this beauty, Clarence!
He offered Thomas a new motor coach, plus $1 million a year out of his own pocket.
Just sign this...
If Thomas would resign from the Supreme Court.
This is not a joke!
Thomas's lawyer says the justice met the terms of the RV agreement and any other omissions were strictly inadvertent. You seem to have few limits on how far you'll go to get a laugh.
With Clarence Thomas, the main point with that was saying that there are not enough guardrails on people giving the money. I can prove that to you by offering this guy $1 million a year to get the off the Supreme Court. That should be a crime. The very fact that it isn't is a problem, and that felt like the most visceral way to prove that fact.
Facts are fundamental to Oliver's humor.
We filed a Freedom of Information Act request.
His deep dives into serious topics are painstakingly crafted.
The death penalty.
I've seen your show described as satirical journalism, investigative comedy. How would you describe it?
In general, it is just a rigorously researched comedy show, both because we want it to be right and for self-preservation purposes. We don't want to be sued into oblivion.
Oliver's staff of 83 includes former journalists as well as comedy writers. They churn out 30 shows a year. It starts with this, hundreds of pages of research on each main story.
This one out.
Oliver, Carvel, and the writers turn those into outlines, and then a script, which is tested at a table read.
I do not want to see a headline tomorrow that says, John Oliver blasts expensive detention camps.
On taping day, we watch them rehearse.
But there are much more humane ways to do that, and even some...
Make last-minute changes and get sign-off from the lawyers. Finally, it's showtime.
There's a little bit of bated breath when he says the tonight's story is. It's like, you know, they've been waiting for maybe a year to come to the show.
Yeah.
And they're getting a real dark one.
Like you've lined up in the cold. You've maybe taken a flight and you're being told the main story is organ donation. It's like, oh.
And this is my trip to New York.
Yeah.
That's right.
Have a nice dinner.
To balance things out, Oliver likes to close the show with something zany. The productions are Stanton's department.
I try and do, to my best ability, anything we can do to make something happen, just because we love the dumb. The dumb stuff is stuff we all love to do.
Some of the segments are pretty elaborate.
Yeah.
They can't be cheap.
We don't talk about that.
We don't talk about that. They'll never find out how much any of it costs. We're cheaper than dragons. As far as we're concerned, that's the financial bar.
Oliver has devoted fans and passionate critics. He takes aim at both sides of the aisle.
Biden's immigration policies, as we've discussed multiple times before, have been haphazard at best.
Last season, you told your viewers, do not vote for Donald Trump.
Absolutely. I'm not going to sit here and say that that is not a partisan thing to do, to say don't vote for Donald Trump. I think it's good advice.
But more than 77 million people voted for Donald Trump. Does your show speak to them?
I really hope it speaks to some of them, yes, because most of those main stories that we talk about are not actually party political. Those are lasting problems that have been there before the last 2 or 3 presidents and may well be there for after the next 2 or 3.
Home of jails and the...
Though he highlights America's shortcomings, he told us he fell in love with this country as soon as he immigrated. He's now a U.S. citizen who fell for an Iraq War veteran.
I married someone who's very American, yeah. She was a medic in the U.S. Army. And now we're married with 2 American kids.
You do love to poke fun at America.
Yeah.
Does it trouble you that some people think that criticizing this place means you don't love it?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that's utterly absurd. I think you can criticize something because you love it. Because you love it and you want it to get better.
That's our show.
He told us in his personal life he's risk-averse. But when it comes to comedy, John Oliver loves to stir up trouble. So if you were to look into your crystal ball, what's next?
Other than living in the president's gulags in the future, that's what my crystal ball is showing me right now. What's next? I have no idea. Hopefully just more of this.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, it's so fun. It's incredibly hard, not infrequently stressful, but it's really, really fun. As long as America has systemic problems, we'll be there, poking fun at them.
Look across the landscape of late-night television, and you'll see that most of the hosts are white men in their 40s and 50s, but not Trevor Noah. He's biracial, he's not American, and he's only 38. But he's a certified celebrity with a global following who has brought an international dimension to Comedy Central's The Daily Show. He's from South Africa, where he grew up under apartheid. He called his memoir Born a Crime because it was illegal for a black woman, like his mother, and a white man, like his father, to mix. As we first reported in December, Trevor says he's always felt like an outsider, but his humor, making people laugh, has been his ticket to belonging. Trevor Noah is back on tour with his comedy show in a different city practically every weekend.
Yeah, like when you're in Texas, they'd be like, you got any weapons in the vehicle? You're like, no, sir. They're like, all right, here's one. Here you go. You all have a good night now.
He loves owning the stage, the roar of the big crowd, typically 15,000 in giant arenas like this one in Washington, D.C.
All right, buddy, here we go. We're about to start taping our monologue. That's all.
It's a far cry from his more confined TV studio day job on The Daily Show, where he had a shaky start when he took over 6 years ago from Jon Stewart.
And now it feels like the family has a new stepdad. And he's black.
Was it a good decision?
Terrible initially.
I know. Awful.
Don't take The Daily Show, Lesley. When they offer it to you, whatever you do, don't take The Daily Show.
Well, what happened in the beginning?
Oh, I mean, everybody hated me. People didn't even know me, and they hated the idea of me.
But you did have a savior, Donald Trump.
Once you realize that Trump is basically the perfect African president, you start to notice the similarities everywhere.
Once he found his foil,
the secret document,
his ratings began to improve, and he realized he could connect American politics to his background in South Africa. He grew up in Johannesburg and its black township of Soweto during the strict racial separation regime of apartheid. He always felt like an outsider, not quite black like his Xhosa mother, not quite white like his Swiss father, who he has seen infrequently in his life. To be with your father who was white, that was a crime.
Yeah. This was the law that forbade anybody of different races from mixing.
There's something I heard, I'm not sure I believe it, but your grandfather used to call you master?
Yeah.
Because of the color of your skin?
That's how he referred to me. Master! And he'd always force me to sit in the back of the car. Be like, Master, what can the police say if I say the master is sitting with me?
Your parents, your grandmother particularly, was always afraid the police were going to come and find you. What would have happened if they found you?
I probably would have been taken away to an orphanage.
No.
Yeah.
Your grandmother was always hiding you.
Yes.
You were in lockdown.
Right. I was in pandemic before pandemic even existed.
But you were poor. You write in your book about eating worms and having a toy that was a brick.
Here's the thing that I always say to people. Being poor in a group or in a community that is poor is not as bad as being poor when you know what you're missing out on. So when I grew up, we played with bricks as cars, and you'd smash them into each other, and it was one of the most fun games I've ever played. The same thing with eating mopani worms. What I didn't like was when we couldn't eat anything else, and my mom said, we're gonna have to eat these mopani worms for longer because we don't have money to buy chicken.
Spending time indoors, he became a voracious reader. He wrote about his mother, Patricia Noah, in his memoir, Born a Crime, saying she raised him almost as if he was white, with no limitations on what he could achieve. He wrote it was just the two of them, him and his mom, against the world. But then she married a man named Abel, who he said beat up his mother, then shot her in the head.
The head bullets didn't hit anything vital, other than the head, obviously. But it missed her spinal cord, missed the nerves, didn't touch the brain, and all it did was it cut a piece of her nostril off, just one side, and the bullet went out clean. And my mom looks at me and she goes, shh, Trevor, shh, don't cry, baby. I said, no, Mom, I'm gonna cry. You were shot in the head. And she says, no. Look on the bright side. I said, what bright side? She says, no, at least now because of my nose, you're officially the best looking person in the family.
You did say you had the black world and you had the white world, and this is a quote from you. All I wanted to do was belong.
Everybody wants to belong. Half of our fights in life are because we want to belong. And so I grew up in a country where I was told that your belonging was defined by the shade of the color of your skin. And that never worked for me. You know, I found my greatest joy was with the people where we shared interests and the way we spoke and the way we laughed, etc. So I always wanted to belong. And that I think has been a gift and a curse in life.
I have a funny feeling that you did belong because you were funny.
Funny is something that I developed as a tool, to belong.
He was funny back in Johannesburg, but became a professional comedian by accident when he was 22 and took the stage at a comedy club on a dare from his cousin.
Yeah, you laugh, but it's true, because I'm like mixed, you know? I've got like a percentage share, like it's that type of thing.
He killed it, gave up his plan to go to college, and soon was touring all over the world as a stand-up comic. According to Forbes, he's one of the highest-paid comedians today. He first started touring the United States in 2011, and a year later...
From the time I was a young child, I've always wanted one thing, and that is, I've always wanted to be black.
He was on The Tonight Show and caught the attention of Jon Stewart's producer at The Daily Show, a Viacom CBS property. When he was eventually offered the host chair, he said it would have meant taking a pay cut and giving up his life on the road. So Stewart had to talk him into it.
He said, I'm not offering you the glitz and glam of your life. I'm offering you a home for a while that I think you will come to enjoy. That intrigued me. I was like, I've always wanted to have home. I've always wanted to belong. And so I thought, well, this could be the chance.
From Trevor's couch in New York City.
And the chance to weigh in on serious topics. When COVID hit and he was broadcasting from his apartment, nearly 11 million people watched his monologue on race and George Floyd.
There was a black man on the ground in handcuffs, and you could take his life, so you did. Almost knowing that there would be no ramifications.
And it wasn't funny. And now we have a new dimension to Trevor.
I guess you've seen a different dimension to Trevor. I've always had the different dimension.
Well, you showed it to the public.
That's true.
Some of the funniest people we know on the planet have depression. You come to mind.
Well, I think over the years, what I've come to learn, thanks to some great therapists, is my depression is created by a severe level of ADHD.
ADHD looks like depression? What do you mean?
So it can be different for different people. I'm not, but so for myself, it means that if I'm not careful in how I sleep, how I eat, how I manage my routine, I can become overwhelmed, and it can just feel like the whole world is just too heavy to bear.
You said something that sticks with me. You said it wasn't till you came to the United States that real hate started coming at you.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What was the hate that you felt? And did the cops ever stop you?
I've been pulled over quite frequently by the cops, yeah. One of my best friends, David Meyer, would drive all over the West Coast to these comedy shows. If I was driving, we would get pulled over.
And
then he would drive, we wouldn't get pulled over.
But you did say you experienced hate.
Yes, but I mean, that's welcome to America,
Oh, that's harsh.
Yeah, there's a lot of hate in America because there's a lot of anger in America.
How is it changing you?
For me, I'm always trying to figure out, how do I speak to somebody who hates me? This is where we are for now.
Because of his childhood, growing up between two different worlds, he tends to see both sides of an argument. Take his reaction to the trouble his friend, comedian Dave Chappelle, got in over his Netflix special, The Closer.
We blacks, we look at the gay community.
That was criticized as homophobic, transphobic, and misogynistic. In your mind, did he cross the line?
Did Dave Chappelle cross the line? Yes, no. It immediately puts me in a position where I have to choose a side when I think that the matter is a lot more complex than that. I think everybody is defining the line for themselves.
No, society defines a line.
You see what you're saying now is you're saying society has decided. But America is clearly divided in that half of society has gone like, no, Dave Chappelle, we love what you said. We're sick of wokeness. We're sick of people being told what to say. We're sick of not knowing how to use the right pronoun. You're right, Dave Chappelle. So then if half of society is saying Dave Chappelle is right and half of society is saying that he's wrong, then that means there is no line. It means society is seeing the line from two different sides. And so that's why I say you cannot say, did he cross the line? Because which side are you looking at the line from defines whether or not he crossed it.
Are you still learning things all the time?
Yes.
Well, he's had to learn about New York City, his new home since 2015, buy an apartment here, make new friends. Let me ask you about your personal life for a minute. Do you want to have children?
I go back and forth. Sometimes I will meet kids who make me go, I want a kid. And then sometimes I'll meet children where I go, I hope that my sperm doesn't do anything because this person is a terror.
You're 37.
Okay.
You're right there. That's
Okay.
the clock. It's ticking.
Okay.
But you don't feel it.
No, I don't.
You have a girlfriend now.
Maybe.
Well, I read page 6 like everybody else in this
Lesley,
world.
Oh, the tabloids.
You don't like to talk about your girlfriends.
No.
What is Trevor like with his girlfriends?
No. It's a trick. You don't have to answer that question.
Yes, he does. Trevor introduced us to comedy producer Ryan Harduth and comedian David Kibuka, now a supervising producer on The Daily Show. They're among his oldest friends from South Africa.
You don't have to answer any questions about personal
Well,
relationships.
who told you that?
Okay, what is Mitch McConnell like with his girlfriends? Do you know the answer to that question?
I don't know.
Exactly.
Because he didn't answer it.
Because they don't even ask him.
And also because people don't want to know. This is what I'll say about Trevor with his girlfriends. Is that...
So you're just fully going ahead with
Yeah,
Of course he
yes.
is.
Wow.
Of course he is.
Is that he is very, very, like a great boyfriend.
So, what are the qualities that you like most about Trevor?
It's a great boyfriend.
Yeah.
Trevor told us he hangs out with these guys often and talks with his mother every day. Things he says that keep him grounded. Is he a perfectionist?
No, I wouldn't say he's a perfectionist.
Workaholic?
Yes.
Yes, I would say so.
100%.
He sure is. Even though he does The Daily Show during the week and has hosted the Grammy Awards for the past 2 years, he refuses to give up his comedy shows.
Genuinely, I just love the feeling of a laugh. I think when we laugh as human beings, that's when we're our most authentic selves. That's why your real laugh is so ugly. Do you know what I mean? It's not filtered in any way. It's just like, I love that. It's like pure joy. Forget what people think. Just laugh, you know? We need it every single day. Every single day.